We built a platform which is similar to what urban company is offering today. But that was 2012. The market was not ready. And something I learned much later that there is something called product market fit. If you create something that doesn't have too many takers, your startup will not work. I never had Instagram on my phone, but when I had it, Instagram was no longer about teenagers dancing and making these videos. It had a lot of useful content. Within a month, I had a very carefully curated list of individuals who I wanted to follow. But then they also have the pressure of creating regular content. There are some really great content creators. There are some great books. Just by reading or listening to some of those, we feel inspired. But at the end of the day, you are not getting anything done. Motivation alone will not get you anywhere. Before consistency is the act of doing. I think there are things that I learned would be useful to especially people who are 20 somethings. I often think that if I was 21 again, uh, here are the things that I would do, here are the mistakes that I will not repeat.
Every day we meet many people in our life. With all we start writing stories. With some we write just few lines. With some it goes ahead to writing a few pages. And furthermore, we write chapters with a few and quite rarely we find people where we joyfully proceed to write novels. Today's guest is one of those people in my life where I feel I am on the journey to write a novel. Welcome to Socho and Seekho Saga, guys. I'm your host, Shatija, and we are meeting someone who has been a pivotal part of my journey over the past 2.5 years. A person who constantly motivates me to aim higher and dream bigger, like winning highest civilian award, for example. I'm very happy today here welcoming Mr. Manish Sharma. Manish, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kshitija, for that rather embarrassing intro. But I'm very happy to be here.
सो वैसे मनीष हम लोग हमेशा ही बात करते हैं वी कन्वर्स ऑन डेली बेसिस काम कैसे चल रहा है नो नो ऑल द विजन एंड मिशन दैट वी हैव बट टुडे ऑन दिस सोफा व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स
So I've had quite a bit of a journey, and I think there are things that I learned would be useful to especially people who are 20 somethings. I often think that if I was 21 again, uh, here are the things that I would do, here are the mistakes that I will not repeat. So I hope to be able to share some of those experiences.
So when we are talking about students or people who are very fresh and young and for whom we are doing a lot of work together, like with building academy and the incubator and products and internships and a lot of programs where we are doing skill development. uh, when you were 20 or before that, let's start from the beginning. As a kid, like little Manish, how was little Manish?
I was a curious kid. My Dadaji named me Todford. So I would, whatever toys were given to me, I would open them up and would try to see how they work, how they function. And over the years, also, if I recall, I would not hesitate in opening up a radio or a tape recorder or even a TV, uh, uh, you know, steam iron and all of that. I was the go-to mechanic in my neighborhood. So I was a curious kid. I would read up whatever my father instilled in me, a very early habit of reading. I started with newspapers. Then I would read everything. I would read labels. I would read anything that I can read as a language. So when I grew up in a city called Guwahati in Assam, so I got familiarized with the third script, English, Hindi, and Assamese. Because I could read Assamese, I could also read Bengali to an extent. So I would read everything, and that sort of habit stays till today. And I think I have learned so much outside the classroom by virtue of this habit. So yeah, I was a very curious kid. I would open things up. I would ask too many questions. Uh, I would even write letters to the editors of newspapers. I would write letters to columnists. Sometimes my question would get published. Uh, and at the when I was around when I was at the eighth, ninth standard mark, I thought I will be a scientist because I was so fascinated by science. Whatever I was reading, I was able to see some of those phenomenon out there happening in the nature. I thought I must learn more about some of these things and contribute my own self. Like Newton discovered the principles of gravity, Einstein wrote about relativity, theory of relativity, and all of that. And I thought, I must also contribute so that 100 years later people talk about things that I have discovered or I have invented. But then that somehow did not materialize, and I ended up taking science. Somehow couldn't perform very well, did not end up doing a proper graduation. I did not even go to a college. But then whatever started early on as a kid, as a curious kid, that has still stayed. I'm still a curious kid.
But then how that journey also, went ahead, like from scientists, what was the next option for you? What you were thinking, like, okay, abhi kya karna hai? So how that journey happened? Like it was like every day exploring, you tried certain things.
Yeah. So I don't know. Unfortunately, that was not the age of internet, and when I could not crack engineering entrance. In fact, I was after JE only. I could not crack it. I felt very gutted. In fact, I thought my life is over. I spent, I think, at least the first 5 or 6 years of my 20s just brooding over not being able to make it to the IITs. I would often see those ads, brilliant tutorials. There's a Chennai-based company now. There are too many IIT JEE coaching centers all over India, but back then there was one, and they would publish their AIR rankers. Okay, and I would feel that I could have been at IIT, I could not. Uh, so when that did not happen, I somehow did not see any other alternative. I just allowed life to happen to me. I ended up doing a simple, plain vanilla degree from School of Correspondence, University of Delhi, just to make myself employable because life happened and I was all on my own when I was around 18 or 19 years of age. I had to fend for myself. My father could no longer support me. So I started doing tuitions. I started doing odd things just to sort of sustain myself in the city of Delhi. But then, that was also a great experience. I did not realize it then when I was amidst all of that. I felt that, my life is over. Okay. I should have allowed, or maybe if there was somebody who was a mentor who would have said, "Oh, it's fine, it happens. You would figure it out. If you are a curious person, if you are open to learning new things, if you have the skill to learn new things, that window of being a child and a youngster to learn something is not the only window that is available to you. You have the entire life. You will learn. In fact, you will realize that as you are older. In fact, today I realize as I have a much better grasp of things. I read things and I learn very, very quickly. Somehow, maybe because of the foundation that I've had over the years. Uh, Coming back to my graduation, I got a simple graduate degree done. I started working alongside my graduation. And then right after my graduation, I was very conscious about not just doing the odd job. I felt that now I have had that experience, that white collar experience of working in a company. Now I think I need to work towards something that is more meaningful, that is a lot more substantial than doing just anything, taking the first job. So I got into this career of being a research analyst first, and then that created the path for me becoming a management consultant. And then uh, in my early 30s, I felt that so actually I met real IITians and people from IIMs around my late 20s, and I figured that, dude, if this is what this person is doing, I'm also able to do the same thing. That's when the whole myth shattered that you need to go to a certain uh, elite college to be able to get education. Because I sort of beating myself down, but throughout my early 20s, I was reading a lot. I was reading everything. So I was also learning along the way. So not having a elite education did not come in my way of finding those opportunities. Of course, it was an impediment early on, but then later on, because I kept working, I was very deliberate about what are the things that I would want to do. I found a career. I found a career. The first company that I worked with was eValueServe. They were doing everything that a consultant would do just before offering an advice. So all the research that was done, that happened early on, and then I got the chance to work with EY, Capgemini, Deloitte, and along. I was going to say about my 30s. Around that time, when have met all of these people and have lived that journey of working in some of the top companies of the world, I started thinking that is this something that I want to do? I should be doing something of my own. So that thing led me to start a few of my own ventures. They were not very successful, but they taught me a lot. Like Nishant says, Nishant is the founder of Contentstack, is also in some way involved in this podcast. So he often says that go where the struggle is. So there are no failures. So Nishant often says that there are no failures, only intellectual learnings. Okay. And I have come to really, really understand what he means. In fact, more and more we are realizing that we should not beat ourselves down for things that did not work out, right? If you have not got into the right college, or if your startup did not work out as expected, was not sort of successful, but it has taught you a lot. It has made the person that you are today, right? So I think we must take out the word we must take out the word failure from our vocabulary as much as possible.
Yeah.
Of course, we must treat failure as failure, but we must just let it happen and move on, is what I've come to understand.
Yeah, right. I mean, what an inspiring journey, Manish. Like from there, what you have reached to now, a chief of staff of Content Stack, and also building many companies under Surfboard Ventures. It
Yeah.
is amazing, and I'm with you when you're saying that whatever we are talking about failures, or Nishant always saying that let's not focus about you know uh, about any failure that we are going to handle, but just do it fast. Yeah, fail fast. Or
Yeah.
एक देयर इज अ फ्रेज जो मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ, या तो जीतते हैं या तो सीखते हैं.
Exactly.
सो यू नो
I
यू
love
आर,
the way you put it.
yeah, I mean, you're not going to lose. It's like कुछ तो सीख लिया. So
बिल्कुल.
failure is a beautiful thing. I think if you fail more is the best perspective of life.
Correct.
Because जीतना इतना सिखाता नहीं, जितना हारना सिखा देता है.
Correct.
And the way you were actually talking about IITN and your journey and meeting them, it felt like जो जीता वही सिकंदर वाला, the ideal modern college versus Rajput college
Yeah.
contour. And I think we are from the same era, so we have that context of what is Rajput, what is modern.
Correct.
And yeah, in the
एक
end,
बात
जो
और मैं
जीता वही सिकंदर.
जो जीता वही सिकंदर और जो हारा वो actually not बंदर.
Not
Okay.
Bandar at
Yeah.
all. So in current context, not at all Bandar.
Correct.
Because हारते है ही नहीं, बस वो
Yeah.
सीखा ज्यादा.
बिल्कुल.
It's all
एक बात
about
और
that.
कहना चाहूँगा in the context of failures, right? We as a society, as a country that is aspirational, that wants to announce its stature to the world, we must stop uh, beating ourselves up for bygones or failures, right? In fact, I would like to use one example. Uh, Back in my day, it was important. I don't know how relevant it is today. So let's say out of 100 marks, you got 92. Okay. And the cutoff at a top college, let's say in DU, there is a college called Sri Ram College of Commerce, SRCC, top, one of the best commerce colleges in India. Let's say the cutoff is, I don't know, 95. Just because you scored three percentages less than somebody who was a 95 percenter, you did not get the chance to study at the best college, and because of which some of the best companies will not come at your college. Let's say at 92% mark, you went to another college, Hindu college in DU. And just because you were not able to score those many marks extra, your your path gets diverged towards feeling mediocre. That somehow I did not get, I could not get into the top college. and the best companies are not going to come, my starting salary will be maybe 25% lower, and then I'm not set up for success. And then you will try, of course, for post graduation and all of that. We must take that thing out of our mind. It was just that one moment. It doesn't mean that you cannot continue to learn, or you cannot explore many other things. And even when you get to work for a company at a lesser salary, you can still announce your arrival. You can still continue to take opportunities, demonstrate high agency. In fact, high agency is also a term that I think I discovered it during the last 4.5 years. Uh, Again, I will refer to Nishant. He often talks about uh, demonstrate high agency. He often talks about what is high agency and why it is important in the modern workplace. And I figured that I had some of those elements already. I try to fill those gaps. By the way, if this audience doesn't know high agency, please do a Google. There is a great product mentor called Shresh Doshi. He often talks about high agency, and he has written a beautiful article on LinkedIn. Doesn't take much. It's a article that you can read and learn within 5 minutes. Please absolutely read it. So I figured that out, and I felt that that was a good enough framework for me to carry on in my life.
Yeah. I mean, I am with you on this because the way I would like to put this, this elite colleges and all these IIMs and uh, IDCs and also IITs and other institutes, it is also a representation of intellectual terrorism, as we want to call it. It is like it is happening, and somewhere people just don't feel as good enough just because they have not got into the certain
Yeah.
things. And also, like, you kind of put down yourself down, and apart from that, there is also one thing that the emotional side, the empathy side, is also not given
Yeah.
too much of
That support.
weightage when you are going too high
Correct.
on the intellectual value. With then the terrorism happens of
Yeah.
intellectuality. And yeah, even I think the agency model also talks about the similar kind of a thing,
Yeah.
which is not just based on talent.
Absolutely. In
Similarly.
fact, I would not go as far as calling it some kind of intellectual terrorism.
Mm.
Absolutely, those people have worked really hard.
Yeah.
Some people start working towards the goal of achieving a good JE rank from as early as class 8, right? And kudos to them. They work towards a very difficult to achieve goal. There is so much competition in India, and I also don't blame the JE system. They are far too many bright people in our country. We can only accommodate so many of them, right? But on the other side, we must also believe that if not, if you are not able to get into a premier institute, life doesn't end there. And today is the age of internet. Today is the age where information is democratized. Everybody has got the equal amount of access to information as much as anybody, right? So in today's age, I think there are multiple avenues available. We must just have that growth mindset, that mindset where we know that I have got this far. I can learn whatever is taught at IITs, and I'll figure it out.
And when I also mention about terrorism, it's not regarding the people, but more about the ecosystem that has been
Yeah,
built, the
that
marketing
yeah,
and the advertising and the
yeah,
way it has been given and hyped
yeah,
in the
agreed.
market. It is
See,
that, not the people.
Kshitij, I have lived that journey. In fact, I've seen some of those people who will rank uh, very highly, like the top 5 people in Assam. They say that somebody stood stand. So we call them as mini celebrities. For at least for the next 5 6 months, they are treated as celebrities. They are called at functions. They are felicitated. So it's nice, but then others who couldn't make it should also not feel that they are left behind in somehow. So I have lived that journey, and but today's generation is different. Today's times are also very different.
Uh, so let's talk about the concept of learning by doing. We both believe in that. We are
Yeah.
kind of working in the similar domain to building academies, and how the skill development will can shape be in a different tangent as far as the young talent is concerned. What's your take on this particular pedagogy or skill development that we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the traditional pedagogic system, I think it is not able to keep with the times. Okay, so I think it was invented maybe 150, 200 years ago, that a certain age group will be put in one class and they will be expected to, go through that system of education, right? Pretty much it is the same everywhere. But you know, today, in today's time, we have come to understand that everybody has a different learning ability. So let's say if you put all 13-year-olds in class 8, not everybody will have the same ability to learn, although we do try the system. See, the thing is, we cannot criticize the system, because it is designed for a larger set of children, right? What else can you choose if not a 13-year-old in class 8? What is the alternative? But then we must also teach our kids that, okay, it's okay if you are scoring 70 out of 100 in math. Math is not happening to you. You are not able to get math as the top ranker in the class, but you will get it. We must not tell that my child is a duffer in math, okay, or my child just cannot get Hindi. Okay, so those kind of statements become self-fulfilling prophecies, right? So we often discuss, Shirija, you and I, in fact, in our world we often talk about this whole growth mindset, where we often say that if you are not able to learn something, it should not be conclusive. It should be, okay, I don't, for example, I often say, even today, I'm in my mid 40s, and even today I aspire to conquer calculus. In fact, even today, I aspire to learn guitar or understand music theory. And maybe in my 20s, I felt that, okay, I cannot learn it anymore. But today, with all the conversations I've had, I have the modern research, and thanks to Carol Dweck, may God bless her, but for writing that book, Growth Mindset, that brain is plastic. Earlier, we believed that you only had one window. You are a child, and in your early life, you can learn. But because why? Because you are not tasked with doing multiple things. You do not have to go to an office. You do not have kids. You do not have household responsibilities. You are a kid yourself. You had all the time in the world to learn. But that doesn't mean that learning will stop there. You can pretty much pick up a book and read. So the most important skill that I have started talking about is learning to learn, skilling to upskill. So be able to, you should definitely have the mastery over the language, right? If you are reading English, for example, you should really be able to comprehend what the author is trying to say and learn anything. In fact, my interests are so varied that people often call me a generalist. But then I don't want to classify myself as a specialist in any area. So I think it was a podcast. So where this individual was very much like me. This person conquered guitar. That person also learned Japanese as an English speaker. That person also figured out coding on his own. So he said that when I started learning the guitar, it was too difficult, but I kept persisting with it. And when I cracked, when I reached an intermediate level, that effort gave me the confidence that I can also learn Japanese, right? So if we persist on our own, and again, I often say that uh, in this time and age, access to information is no longer a challenge. All you need to figure out is your own method of learning, right? Maybe the traditional pedagogic system will work for some. It is beautiful. It has worked for many people over the last 150 to 200 years. But then there is an alternative system. I have started believing in the homeschooling system, where children they can be taught to learning to learn, upskilling, skilling to upskill, right? So they are sort of set up on that path where they can learn anything. And maybe there is one more method, that you become a sports person throughout your childhood, and when you are retiring, say at around 30 to 30 years of age, you can continue with your education. So I have seen people do it, and I've started believing that literally in today's time and age, sky is the limit. All you need to have that curious mindset and a little bit of persistence to learn anything.
Right. So even when we were growing up, so our parents used to have like one job profile,
Yeah.
and then they used to get retired from the same company
Yeah.
after 30, 35 years or more than that
Correct.
if they started early.
Yeah.
So when we were growing up, it was the model
Correct.
that you have one skill, एक ही
Yes.
ये करियर है, वो करियर तुम कर लो, इसके बिना
Yeah.
कुछ नहीं होगा, and then you retire. But I
Yeah.
think our generation is we have seen the rapid transition,
Yeah.
not just in the mindset, also the expectation and the access to tools
Information.
and technology and information that happen.
Correct.
And it just happened very rapidly.
Yeah.
Right from, like, we have seen floppy disks to CDs to rewritable CDs
Oh yes.
to, so like all those things, sometimes you feel that okay, ये एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं कर रहा अभी, कैसेट्स
Correct.
थे अभी है नहीं,
Yeah.
लोगों को पता ही नहीं है डेटा का क्रंच क्या होता है.
Yeah.
So I think that is also one of the things that the millennials or
Yeah.
the generation X millennials era. So I
Yeah.
am also like an elder millennial
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of a generation.
Yeah.
They are more adaptable to learning those things,
Yeah.
and the young talent already has like the plethora of offers and options in front of them.
Correct.
But that also creates a lot of confusion, because हमारे सामने कुछ था ही नहीं, अभी बहुत है. So how do we, help them to figure out के करना क्या है, because पहले option थे नहीं.
Yeah, that's what we are trying to solve through EdBy Academy and EdQuest, providing a structure. So when we were deliberating on EdQuest, Kshitija, you are the product manager. The idea was that let us not recreate that has already been created. Let us figure out a structured way of bringing together all the knowledge from the internet, and let us create certain learning pathways which become through which the knowledge of the internet becomes accessible, becomes a lot more universal in a structured way. We are there, and I think we have started that journey, and I think that is the path forward. And of course, with the advent of AI, it has gotten a bit easier. But talking about that learning mindset, growth mindset, one example I would definitely like to give, and I think it was a very important example that really opened up my mind. I'll share that link with you. There is a guy on the internet. He has started a channel where he experiments with model rockets. Okay. And after 7 years of trying, he was able to figure out vertical takeoff and vertical landing. So that, I must tell you, those who understand rocketry and rocket science, is a very difficult skill, very difficult thing to crack. It took him 7 years, but he cracked it. He kept at it. And guess what is his background? He will tell me that he must be a PhD in physics or aeronautical engineering or whatever. He is actually a graduate in music production from Berkeley. Okay. So he was able to use that skill of becoming or getting into a top tier college like Berkeley College of Music, learn from that journey of becoming a music producer, and then use that skill to learn something new altogether. He tells in his on his website, he mentions it on his website, that how he became interested in rocketry. He was really impressed with what Elon Musk was doing at SpaceX. He wanted to work at SpaceX. His education limited or prevented him from immediately getting a role at SpaceX. He said, okay, no worries, I'll figure it out on my own. He started building model rockets, and of course, his journey. He found his own path. Of course, he no longer wanted to work at, or maybe he did, but then he found that there was a lot of followership. He was able to get through his YouTube channel. He was able to find a living as well through that channel. Eventually, he cracked something that was too difficult. In fact, I don't think even today, outside SpaceX, I don't think many people know how to do a vertical takeoff and vertical landing.
Mhm.
So it's a great example, and I think you must show it to our viewers, our followers, that if you have a background in music, you can very well learn something that is literally rocket science.
Yeah. So I and on this, I think what actually helps any person, or all these stories that we actually, inspiring stories that we listen to, it tells us that motivation is there, it's a thing, it's important, but consistency actually always beats motivation. I mean, motivation is there, it might be
Yeah.
a short term thing, but those who are consistent and consistently doing the same thing
Yeah.
and growing at the same time, I think
Correct.
that's the key. I think when Kunal was here, he also mentioned a lot and emphasized a lot on consistency, like how you talk about work life balance and this and that, but just be consistent with whatever you're doing, then you don't feel the burden of any task, any work, or anything that you're going to enjoy.
Correct.
uh,
To your point about motivation, there is research. I think, in fact, a few authors like James Clear mentions in his book Atomic Habits, great book. Everybody must read it. It's a great framework. Also, he talks about motivation doesn't work. He talks about why just feeling motivated is not enough. Like just before this started, I was talking about, we must read books, we must listen to certain people, certain podcasts, and all of that. But what is happening is it has become that uh, downward spiral of becoming content consumers. There are some really great content creators. There are some great books. Just by reading or listening to some of those great podcasts and speakers and all of that, we feel inspired. But at the end of the day, you are not getting anything done. For you to be able to achieve anything at all, you need to start doing something. So motivation alone will not get you anywhere. Uh, like Kunal mentioned, consistency. But before consistency is the
yeah.
act of doing something day in and day out. And of course, that's where the whole element of consistency comes in.
Right. Very well said. When we talk about skill and education and educational ecosystem, one thing we cannot, skip nowadays, when we are almost the youngest country on the planet, and will be and will remain for few years, uh, is the startup ecosystem. So when we also started our initiative with Virar Hub Incubator, and we conducted Startup Hub quest, and you were the mentor guiding all those startups. What's your take on startup? And I know that you were also part of a startup. How was that journey as well?
Wow, good question. And uh, so, at around, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, that around the 30, 31 year mark, I started feeling that uh, my outcomes would be vastly different if I do something of my own. And of course, I did try. It was a great learning experience. In fact, we built a platform which is similar to what Urban Company is offering today. But that was 2012. The market was not ready. Mobile phones were just becoming ubiquitous. High speed data was being talked about, was not readily available. It was too expensive. So we were ahead of our time. It gave it a few years. We started with creating a ecosystem for the music learners. So on one end they are learners, on another end they are suppliers, equipment and music teachers and all of that. And the idea was that we'll start off with that and we'll venture into other areas. But we gave it several years, just didn't work out. So, and something I learned much later in my life was that there is something called product market fit. Okay, so if you create something that doesn't have too many takers, your startup will not work. So coming back to your question, that how you should, I'm presuming this was your question,
Yeah.
that what is it that I talk to uh, aspiring founders, and what has been my learning
Yeah.
by virtue of starting a few things of my own and working here, is that we must try to solve problems, but we must also not forget about those problems in isolation. We must always understand that if a problem needs to be solved, it needs to be solved in the context of the customer. If you're trying to, you must always be customer centric. So if you are trying to solve for something maybe that has a requirement 10 years later, you will struggle. You may build the best product out there, but the if the supply chain, where you will be procuring things, or you will find the skill sets, does not exist, and the whole logistics of delivering something to that end user customer does not exist, then you will not be very successful. And of course, we'll talk about all of those things like intellectual learning and stuff like that. So my suggestion, or I don't want to get into a prescriptive mode, but what I would love to want to suggest is absolutely look to solve problems. Look to solve problems that can be solved at a smaller level. Find a few early paying customers and see if that scales. Be in that mode of experimentation. Don't really get stuck with your idea. Like in Virar Hub, when we were evaluating a few startups, there were some very interesting people, some highly motivated individuals as well. But they firmly believe that their idea is the only idea that will work. So we met. I remember there was this guy who wanted to create an EV startup. We already knew that there were several EV startups already. It's not too a couple of years ago. There have been several EV startups already. And then there was this individual I met at a separate gathering. He was trying to create something again for the EV owners where he will come and deliver a battery. So I felt that that problem will require, will have a, is definitely worth solving. But the whole logistics of owning vehicles or owning a battery charging infrastructure, I felt 3 years ago it was not worth it. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. So what I'm trying to suggest essentially is that absolutely we must think of solving problems. It Problems could be at a local level, it could be at a global level. We must not be held back by, oh, this is too big a problem that is to be solved. But let us seek to find some early traction. Let us try to find that product market. So content stack, when I learned about content stack, Nishant helped me visualize it, that when we created content stack, we were here and market was here. But then we kept persisting. We found some early adopters, and eventually the market and product converged. And of course, we also learned through that journey. By the way, there is a very good book. It's called Crossing the Chasm. It's a fantastic book. Every aspiring founder should really go through it. It tells you that there is a bit of a journey that you will have to live, and there is no shortcut to achieving fame. Somehow you would have found many. In fact, recently I was listening to something. Somebody did mention that all the successful founders are celebrated as if they were an overnight success. It took years of toil and hard work, failures to for them to achieve what they have achieved, right? So there is no way for anybody to overcome or find. There is no shortcut. Is all I'm trying to suggest.
Yeah. And very valid point that you mentioned is about problem solving and the relevancy and the urgency.
Correct.
And I think when the young talent is actually coming to us with all those startup ideas and they were giving the pitches to you and the other jury members that we had in both the startup quest, I think that was kind of a loophole where they failed to understand the relevancy and urgency. So validating those problem statements sometimes, I'm not saying it why it will be the right journey all the time. Sometimes it's like you mentioned, just do it.
Just do it.
And failing fast is also the thing. But yeah, at least the process and being mindful about this problem solving and uh, problem solving problem statement plus the relevant problem statement, and which is an urgent problem to solve. So
Correct.
you find the product market fit also quite early, not after, like, after you actually end up into a wrong market or a
As
wrong
I said,
time.
it's a journey. You have
Yeah.
to figure out if there is a market for your product. You
Mhm.
cannot be building something in isolation. I have learned it uh, through my journey of building my own companies. One company that I don't often mention, was a company where we had this very lofty ideal that, yeah, this is a problem worth solving. But as we went down that journey, we figured that there's no market for it. There are no, how will we make money? Was the question we never were able to answer, right? But I must also tell you something that is very, very critical. Uh, it may seem very romantic, it may seem very aspirational to go down that path of entrepreneurship, but it may not be for everyone. We must not, we must understand our constraints. You know, when I was 18, I could not have thought of entrepreneurship. I took whatever came my way. You know, the first job that I took was, uh, I don't know if I'll do it today, right? But it was very critical in keeping me afloat. You know, helping me stay on my own without being without returning home to my parents, right? So, yeah, we must understand our own reality. We must own understand our aptitude and capability. See, the thing is, if you join a company, you can still be an entrepreneur. You can have that entrepreneurial mindset, right? As I spoke about high agency people and entrepreneurs are similar, right? So if you are in a company, if you see that they are, you don't want to be told to do things. You don't want to wait for opportunities to come your way. You somehow have a grander picture of your company. Like you understand what makes this company work. You know how is this company is making revenue. Uh, you should not think that, you know, I have been given this one task, which is to build a future or, you know, quash a few bugs in the software, in the product, right? We must also try to understand what is the broader context, why this product exists, why are people willing to pay for it, and then figure out my own small opportunities along the way, and that's how you grow. And at some point, if you have lived that journey, if your finances are sorted, you may want to start something of your own.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more to this point as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Manish, you are an avid reader. I mean, the users and our followers must have figured out while you're giving the references of all the books. You have also like inspired me to read again, and I've also started like a lot of reading. I three of the books that you recommended me. Of course, Mindset is one of the important books we all are following under the umbrella of our companies. Uh, Plus Wired to Create was one another book which I really loved, the artist way.
Yeah.
It also kind of appealed to me because I'm a designer as my professional journey. uh, that's the reason, like, those books were like really lovely. But apart from that, the habit of reading is like, it has kind of like recarnation happened.
Reignited.
So thanks to you, and of course for the our viewers, can you just recommend, like, few of the books that you really like and you want to like recommend more? We'll give the list of all the books that Manish has recommended in the description.
Sure. I think there are many books that I've loved and recommended over the years. Um at this point where I am, you know, in my journey, one book that that really has got me thinking and introspecting is Clear Thinking by the author called Shane Parrish.
Yeah.
Nishant recommended it to me about 15 months ago, uh, and that book has been. I have not read it in its entirety because the thing is, a lot of gyan in the book is often repetitive. So I somehow was going through the index, not the index, but the table of contents, and I found this chapter on the inevitability of death, and when we must start calculating backwards from that point. So I'm just paraphrasing for the benefit of this audience. It may seem a little weird to think of death before even you have lived, but I think it is important to understand that we have got a finite life. It may seem very philosophical to youngsters, but we must appreciate the the finiteness of life. We have only been given a few productive years where we are uh, expected to follow a certain template, study, job, uh, settle down, have kids, buy a house, buy a car, travel the world, and all of that. So it's more or less the set template for a lot of people. Uh, and it is okay, there's nothing wrong with it. But we must also start thinking that uh, we have been given this gift of consciousness, this gift of human life, and there is a lot more that we can do uh, by uh, by really just being aware and alert about it. So many times we pursue things which are not adding any value, which we persist with people, we persist with uh, jobs or anything, right? That you think have lived that role. In fact, somebody's, please cut it if it is not needed. So somebody's marriage was ending, and that person was very sad about it. That person said that, okay, how I have come to reconcile with this whole separation is that the my spouse's karmic role has come to an end, and I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was a great framework to really overcome all sorts of sadness that we encounter when something comes to an end. Let's say a job has come to an end. Let's say it's it is easy for me to say it. I know it is extremely difficult when something comes to an end. Somebody dies in your family, uh, a friendship ends, or a marriage ends. Okay, all of that is very difficult. But then we must understand that it is happening in the a very tiny time frame of a human life. If you think about it, universe has been since Big Bang. Of course, that's what everybody says, that Big Bang happened, universe has been around since 13.8 billion years. Okay, so 13 followed by 9 zeros. Earth came to be 4.8 billion years ago, and human beings, we have been perhaps around for maybe about a few 100,000 years. By the way, to give you a broader perspective, dinosaurs lived and died even before mammals, our very early ancestors, were even around. We were a fringe species, our ancestors. If dinosaurs had persisted, there was no chance for humans to survive. It is just coincidental. That's what I believe, that an impact event happened, and the bosses of this planet were just wiped out, and other species got the opportunity, and that's how humans happened. So this whole gift of consciousness is a very extremely rare event uh, in the grander scheme of things, and we must appreciate, and we must know that it is all going to come to an end. So we must see if we live our life to its fullest. We find meaning in doing whatever we can do. Why I'm saying all of this is, absolutely we must live life. We must really do the things which uh, the whole world is telling us to do. We must absolutely aspire to travel, enjoy food, have a family, have those material belongings like house, car, and all of that. But we must also be conscious that this is all finite, and there is a lot more that I can think, and I can there's a lot more that I can do, I can achieve to find meaning and fulfillment. It is still a little fuzzy in my head. It is finding clarity, but I thought it was worth discussing. I'm just thinking out aloud. That book really got me. That chapter, the last chapter, really got me thinking. That it's all, and in fact, I'm speaking from the vantage of where I am. I'm in my mid 40s, and it suddenly seems that, oh, there are not too many years left. So that's what I must tell. I would like to tell youngsters. If I was 20 something, I would not be bogged down by all the failures and defeats and things that did not go my way, but I would just be like, there's a lot more that I can do. I must continue persisting, and something will work out.
And apart from that book, any other book? I mean, we deep dive into this conversation a lot, and we really loved it. I think we all have this little thought in our mind, right? And even in the studio, whoever is listening, like whatever we mentioned, like going backwards and think about the moment,
Yeah.
and then maybe the plan will change.
Yeah.
When you are not mindful about the end, sometimes, like we all know, but we are not mindful about it.
Yeah.
We're not talking or thinking consciously about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. In
that's
fact,
the beautiful thing.
it is often said that think about your last day. Would you want to? You should be able to be very proud of how you have lived your life. So I think that is a good framework to start working backwards from. Another book that I would love to talk about is people often uh, belittle self-help literature, but then it is there for a reason. People do need help. So again, it is not one of those classical self-help type books, but Atomic Habits has been a very, very important book. It has helped me deal with procrastination to an extent. Okay, so many times we see something that seems very difficult to conquer. For example, if there is a project that I know will last for 6 months, it just seems too overwhelming. It feels as if I'm standing at the bottom of a mountain that I'll have to climb. And I start thinking that, okay, what if I'm in the middle of the mountain and if I look back and I'll be afraid of the height, right? So all of those uh, inherent human fears come to the fore, right? But we have to get started. And that whole feeling helps prevents us in delaying things as much as possible, because we are in this, or maybe as humans we are engineered to always go for instant gratification. We go after lighter projects that we can quickly turn around and get on with our lives. So what James Clear says is, he has a very simple framework. He says that if you are really feeling bogged down by something, give it 5 minutes. Give it 5 minutes and persist with it. You will be surprised that within those 5 minutes you have made progress, even if it is worth only 5 minutes. But you will start thinking that, oh, it's not as difficult as I thought it was, right? Uh, and another thing that I have sort of taken as a corollary, and I have spoken with a few people recently, is that and as a journalist and as a chief of staff, I get involved in multiple things uh, which have their own independent context. So there is a lot of context switching I need to do. So I've started becoming very sacrosanct to my calendar, that if there is a EdQuest conversation happening in the morning, if the next conversation is about India's marketing and PR, if the next conversation is about India team's performance management or talent related discussions, I'll have my notes ready. Of course, I take some time early in the morning that what is it that I want to achieve out of these interactions. I get through those meetings. What was happening was, because of so much context switching, I was feeling a little overwhelmed, early on. But staying true to my calendar and that whole 5 minute thing, I was able to find that start, and I was able to and I think there is an element of perfectionism as well. I am a perfectionist. I somehow think that unless I do something to the standards that I've set for myself, it's not worth pursuing. But that has changed over the years, and that often leads to procrastination. So that book sort of helped me that sometimes getting started. In fact, in my world, the world that I came from, consulting, it was often mentioned that uh, perfect is the enemy of good. Okay, good is good enough. If you chase that utopian perfection, maybe it doesn't exist. Sometimes getting something out is more important than trying to make it really the best in the world. So absolutely that book, and I mentioned Crossing the Chasm. It's an important book, especially for founders. They must understand that there is a journey they have to live. They must try and find. Uh, they must live that journey to find some early customers, then later adopters, and then the broad market. And then the third book I would like to talk about is Zero to One. Zero to One is sort of related to Crossing the Chasm, but Zero to One is about why we must strive to create something and bring it to life. I'll just save. I'll definitely encourage your listeners to read that book. But 0 to 1 is a very important concept that we must all imbibe. That uh, uh, that concept is about bringing things to life and taking it to a certain level where you earn that first dollar in revenue, and then of course the whole journey begins. So it doesn't end at one. It is from 1 to 10 and 10 to 100. Like we are in that journey, content stack. So yeah, these few books. There are many others, but I think like uh, the one that you mentioned, create.
Wired to
Why
create.
to create is again very very important. All within the realm of entrepreneurship.
So that's an amazing picks, like all the list of books that you are given. I think in all our podcasts, we generally get a lot of requests and a lot of recommendations for books, but this podcast will have a huge list of books coming up for you in the description section.
But Kshitija, for our audience, I must warn you two things. First, again, don't fall into the trap of thinking that okay, somebody has recommended 5 books, they are the must reads. No, they may not be the right books for you. You may not even enjoy reading them. Uh, that's part number one. And a corollary to that, I mentioned it in my earlier conversation today, is that don't fall into the trap of consuming content. Sometimes it's easier. Our mind is a really brilliant tool. If you give it a problem, I have always believed that if you give it a problem, it will find a solution. How you find a solution is by giving it an anchor. So if there is a problem that you're encountering, or if there are things that you uh, are not able to find a solution for, you start writing them down. So being able to create really helps you. Why are you reading a book in the first place? You must ask that question. You are reading to get the perspective of an author, and you want to not make the same mistakes. You want to learn from that person's journey. But then there is, because of this whole information age, perhaps we would have seen, heard, see people do some of those things which you can already assimilate. You may not need any more books, right? If your intention is to build a company, or if your intention is to crack a big project, you don't need James Clear. Maybe you can just do a chat GPT prompt, what this book is all about. Give me top 5 bullets, it will give it to you. Or they are, even if you do a Google, in fact, you will find it on James Clear's website, what all his book is all about, right? In fact, you will find podcasts, half an hour podcast. So there are multiple ways of learning, but I must warn everybody to not fall into the trap of, you know, consuming content, or feeling that uh, pressure of reading a book, or listening to a certain type of podcast, right?
Yeah.
So
With like you mentioned podcast, right? I'm pretty sure, and we also discuss few people whom you actually listen to. So
yeah.
do you want to mention like few
Oh
people that you
yes.
would like to listen to these days?
Oh, absolutely. Naval Ravikant. He's an entrepreneur, but more than that, he's a philosopher. In fact, this whole thought of life is finite came from something that he said in one of his podcasts, where I think he refers to Confucius, the Chinese philosopher, that he says that you only live twice. The second time is when you realize that you have got only one life, right? So he is absolutely, everyone must listen to him. He has got very simple ideas, and then I try to listen to Elon Musk wherever he's speaking. I absolutely love to listen to what Nishant has spoken. I have worked very closely with him, so I know a lot. But then when you hear him speak in podcasts, I see that a certain structure comes out, and that I can often refer back whenever I need to refer to some of those core things that is to learn from such podcasts. And there are many, many. So these three individuals I absolutely love to listen to. Again, I often tell myself that I should not fall into the trap of becoming a content consumer. I'm telling this again and again. This is the trap, trust me. Sometimes some of the knowledge that you need is universal, that is already available or accessible to you. You already know about those things. And a lot of this is feel good, that prevents you from actually doing things, just motivates you. Oh wow, I've listened to this podcast. You go to sleep. Okay, tomorrow is a new day. I'll wake up at 5 a.m. I'll hit the gym. But then you are again waking up at 8 a.m. and you're not hitting the gym. And then you're listening to another podcast that makes you feel good. But then the net result is you have become a content consumer. You have given those content creators views or your money by actually buying a book, but you have not done anything, right? And by not doing anything, you will not be able to bring a difference to your life or to your loved ones, right? So that's what I wanted to absolutely tell your audience about. Yeah. And yeah, the second thing I wanted to mention was that sometimes, uh, if you want to really start a book and if you have not been a reader, it may seem a little difficult. So give yourself small goals. That okay, I it's on my calendar. These 30 minutes are exclusively for me to read a book. I will try to read as much as possible within these 30 minutes. Don't set yourself a goal of 5 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages, or whatever. Just say that these 30 minutes are exclusively carved out to think, take notes, read a book, and stay true to that. That's it. That's it. Do it day after day after day. You'll be fine.
Yeah. And the way you are mentioning, like we all are consuming content on daily basis. There is the Dr. Agashe, who is a Maharashtrian actor and also psychiatrist. He mentioned a term anesthesia of entertainment.
Oh,
And
wow.
that
I love it.
stuck with me, like, how we all are under this anesthesia of entertainment because the way you are getting the content, it's just feels you numb because it's our second nature to swipe.
Oh, yes.
uh, and so I just wanted to
Oh
mention that when
yes,
you
yeah,
talk about
I
content.
completely agree. It's if in fact there is also a term called doom scrolling. We've all become doom scrollers. We have become numb. We have become very robotic. There was a time when I had gone down this path of I never had Instagram on my phone, but when I had it, oh man, it was very difficult to leave it because Instagram was no longer about you know teenagers dancing and making these videos. It had a lot of useful content. In fact, it so happened within a month I had a very carefully curated list of individuals who I wanted to follow. But then they also have the pressure of creating regular content. And it was a slippery slope. And I actually went down on that slope and I realized that I have gained nothing out of it. In fact, I would often think that I spent like an hour last night on Instagram. What is that one thing that I remember out of it? Many times I don't remember anything. You are right. I have become numb. We have become numb, collectively as human beings
Yeah.
by consuming so much content, so much disparate content that I'm listening to a food blogger and I'm also listening to a Marwadi comic, Marwadi stand up comic, So I was like, oh, I'm really speaking my language. And somebody is talking about food, all the myths that I had about food. And because I'm a very curious person, I like to listen to everybody. Okay. Yeah. So that has not served me. So as I mentioned, life is finite. Anything that doesn't add any value to my aspiration should brutally cut. So I uninstall Instagram out of my phone and I say that okay, this is my time to read a book. I'll read a book. Like a social media detox, of course, which is needed. Detox basically means that you will go back. So eliminate is the right word. Yeah. I would suggest. See, it has merit, but the way it is designed, there are some great content creators. There is a lot of wisdom that is out there. But the way it is designed, like the book Zero to One often advocates, that creates sticky products. It takes the whole stickiness to a whole another level. You are just not able to come out of it. When you're swiped, another video starts, and your mind is hooked. You have to realize that we have become slaves. Would you be slave to a human? But we are slaves to these apps. Consume it, but retain your control is what I would suggest. Yeah. Retain the self control.
Yeah. And also because everyone is living in the present, but how to
Yeah.
live in the present with the context of past and future, that is, the beauty of analog clock is gone
Yeah.
somewhere. With the digital clock, also I'll quote Mr. Dr. Agashe when he says that, what type of clock or a watch is the best watch is the analog type of watch because that gives the best context of time with what is not the like what is not the time and what is going to be the time, not just this is the time.
Correct.
So that is the beauty, like when you're living in the present, but let's not forget
about
the context of
yeah,
past and future.
why we are doing what we are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
बहुत फिलोसॉफिकल बातें हो गई मनीष, थोड़ा सा मूड को लाइट करते हैं and we'll move to our next segment, which is quick spark.
Sure.
So brace yourselves, here are your 10 questions coming up, and whatever comes in your mind very quickly, you can just say that aloud. If you weren't in tech, what field would you explore?
I would have been a PhD in literature, and perhaps I would have been an author.
And still you can.
I wonder if a PhD is worth it, but writing a book is definitely worth it.
Yes. What's a hobby you have always wanted to pick up?
Learning a musical instrument. So I have been a long in the tooth guitarist, and I hope I will really overcome it soon.
Your favorite meal of the day?
Lunch. I often eat generally 2 meals, so lunch is like my last meal, so it's very important. I don't miss it.
What's one tech trend that you are excited about?
AI, artificial intelligence, for sure. It's brilliant.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Martin Luther King, for sure. For his oratory skills, I would love to hang out with him, or at least watch him from a distance if he gives me that opportunity. If he would have given me that opportunity, his oratory skills.
A quirky fact about you?
Okay, this is an interesting one. So many people, when they have to buy something, they go to Amazon or Flipkart. I go to OLX. So somehow I think that people buy things and they pay the full price for it, and then when they no longer need it, they would just want to give it away for nothing. So I somehow I find value in second-hand things. It's a quirky thing about me, you know. In fact, I've thought about writing a book or maybe a series that my OLX stories. There have been some really interesting stories. I'll save it for another podcast, but
Very interesting. Okay. Any favorite travel memory?
Okay, so during my 20s, I did a lot of motorcycle riding. So I always remember my trip to Ladakh and back. So that entire journey was amazing. In that journey, I met this one amazing individual, all of 21 years old, had nothing, no money. He just buys a simple 3,000 rupees ka hero bicycle, and he's just uh, he rode all the way from Mumbai to Ladakh, and he was being supported by everybody. People like us, we will buy him a meal or we'll take care of his one night stay. And I thought that was an amazing way of discovering things right after your college. So I'll always remember that guy. If you're listening to it, if you know me, please ping me. I'm looking for you.
Okay. One word that describes or defines your leadership style.
That an individual is limitless. So if we put limits on ourselves, I cannot do this or I am cut out for doing this, will not grow. So my suggestion to my teammates, to the people who work closely with me, I would say that there's nothing that you cannot do. Be limitless.
Yeah. And I can actually I'm the proof of your leadership style. So I can guarantee that. Like that's a great style which is working.
Thank you. It's embarrassing.
What's the best compliment you have ever received?
That I look nice even when I'm bald.
But that's truth, right? I mean,
See, when you in your 20s, when you start losing your hair, it's a very bad feeling. You know, that is the time when you start you arrive onto the dating scene, and if you're losing your hair, there are not too many takers, right? So, but then it happened, and I accepted the reality of it. So I'm told that those who met me after losing all of my hair, they were saying, "You look fine." Don't worry."
And any guilty pleasure?
I no longer feel guilty about doing anything.
You have earned it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
No guilty pleasures so
Yeah,
far.
yeah. I eat everything. I go everywhere. I do motorcycle riding. Yeah. So I'm not guilty about anything anymore.
That's like a wonderful rapid fire round. I mean, the studio can go and we can applaud for this round for sure. Uh, Great conversation, Manish.
Thank you
It
so
was
much.
very different on the sofa for us. Very new things that even I didn't knew before. So thank you so much for being here. Any closing thoughts for our listeners?
No, just uh, I would have loved to say, may the force be with you, but I'm nobody to suggest that. But I would only recommend that, one thing, yeah, absolutely. One thing I would like to definitely mention is that uh, we must definitely think of creating. Creating could be anything, could be a blog post, or could be a video, or could be a startup. And we are in that phase in the grander scheme of things where our country is all the you know enablers, ecosystem enablers have come together, right? So today, as a 20-year-old, you have many paths that are available to you. I think I did not mention it in my conversation earlier. So I have started visiting campuses from at least 2007. And back then, at campuses, students who are passing out or just passed out would often ask about, how do I shape my career? How do I get to this certain designation? How do I become a partner in a consulting firm? Majority of those conversations were about uh, seeking a job and building that career in a job. And today, if I meet a youngster fresh out of college, uh, at least 7 out of 10 individuals are talking about building something of my own, creating something of my own. How do I do this? How do I become a founder? Where do I find money? Where do I sell my products? Okay, I have this idea. So there is a distinct shift from being a job seeker to a job creator. And then, it has not happened in isolation, for sure. The ecosystem around us, the whole narrative around us, is all about, this is the right time. We have a strong political leadership. In general, in India, people have become a lot more confident. It's very visible. It's very distinct. If you meet a 20-year-old versus during our time, there is a certain assured uh, outlook that you see in a 20-year-old. They are very optimistic. They know what they are doing. They know where they are headed. So this bodes well. So I think the next 25, 30 years will be really important years for our country. And I would definitely recommend this to anybody who cares to listen, is to not let this opportunity slip. If, it doesn't matter if you're a 20 something or if you're a 50 something. Next 25 years are going to be really critical, important years for our country, and they are going to shape our collective destinies. And we must know that really amazing times are ahead for us. We are very fortunate that we are whatever, whoever we are, irrespective of the age, but we are born in India. So that's all I'd like to say.
Yeah. On this great thought, we can wrap up today's podcast. And thank you so much, Manish.
Thank you so much for having me here. I hope, and I really enjoyed my conversation with you.